would have been better for the likes of Billy Tegg, the ship's carpenter, had Captain Price stuck to his word. But Mr. Roberts sent a dozen lads on the second day to fill out the crew, with the promise for more if they just wait a few more days. Price waited, biding his time on the ship, storing away the kegs of water and the food coming from the away party, while each day a fresh group of lads went to shore to relieve the party from the day before. On the fifth day, that scoundrel, Billy Tegg, taking a party of 4 mates on a tour ashore, ventured beyond the freshwater stream and found a tobacco plantation and a hoard of rum. Billy, Joseph, Henry, Robert, and Thomas, all good mates before the mast, sent 3 big kegs of rum back to the ship, and then they settled into looting the farmer's house, bringing to the courtyard anything of value, with the plan to carry it back to the company. No mention of the fate was ever told of the farmer, his wife, and their daughters. 2 sons, young in age, escaped the pirates into the jungle, along with the plantation's 15 slaves. In the weeks that followed, Captain Price believed it was this group that brought about the events of this ill-begotten day. The truth of it was, they had waited too long in the shallows around Old Providence. To add to Price's woes, Pirate Henry Morgan had turned against the Brethren of the Coast in his later years as Lieutenant Governor of Jamaica, and had a policy to successfully suppress piracy. He saw fit to up the strengths of the garrisons, and he increased the commissions of the captains with the goals of patrolling the sea lanes. For the simple pirate, it was better to be a landlubber than keep to his thieving ways. Fearing the noose, many reformed or sailed to the southern seas, or tried their hands at pirating the coasts of Arabia. In the interest of keeping the king's peace with the nations of Europe, Colonel Harold Long, commander of the Old Providence garrison, acted on his commission. His lookouts had spied the Raven entering the waters of Old Providence, not in the least part due to the fact that he had received word from Juan Carlos to be on the lookout for the Raven. The sealed letter described the crew of the Raven as black-hearted rogues and murderers in league with the devil himself. It also offered a reward of 500 doubloons for their capture and their return of the ship they had taken. So it happened that on this beautiful sunny morning on the 5th day, Mr. Tegg and his rogues went to looting, and Colonel Long and his garrison marched out of the fort of San Lorenzo into the direction of the freshwater spring. Colonel Long had no real hope to believe that the pirates would have lingered so long, and more than expected to find that they had sailed on. Still, in the interest of giving his force something to do, it was worth the day's trip to patrol the island, lest his lads become too soft from too much sitting. Around noon, the king's militia approached the tobacco farm from the jungle side. It was obvious that something was amiss. No slaves tended to the crops, or worked the grounds around the house. 3 armed men patrolled the yard nearest to the houses. They seemed vigilant in their duty because they watched the jungle and even appeared to notice the movement of the king's troops. Yet they were unmoved to take action, as if they were expecting them. As the closest sentries wandered back toward the direction of the house, Colonel Long ordered his force to move forward and take positions along the retaining wall. This objective was reached without incident, but as they crossed into the farmyard and approached the servants' quarters, a shot rang out from one of the sentries. Mr. Tegg and his party of sea dogs had been busy packing their ill-gained loot when the shot alerted them to danger. Whether it is because of the rum they had been sampling, or because the loot they had amassed in the courtyard was too large for them to make a clean getaway, no one will ever know. But Mr. Tegg directed his band back into the house, and they took position at its windows. They opened up with volleys from their pistols, at a range that had little hope of finding its mark. Not far from the farm, Mr. Roberts and Frenchy were returning to the ship with the last of their recruits. They were following the freshwater stream when the shots rang out. First they heard pistol shots, followed by a series of firelocks and matchlock volleys. It was more battle than any simple raid could justify. Roberts wanted no part of it, because he saw no profit in it for himself or the crew. Had he been a moment sooner, he would have realized the attack on the farm was coming from English state troops, and he would have intervened and prevented his freebooters from delivering a volley into the militia that had dropped a number of them. "Aye, lads, if that be our mates, whose duty it is to guard our retreat, they have kicked up a hornet's nest. The boats lay unprotected on the shore, lads. We make for the boats. He that falls behind will be left behind." Roberts ordered his force to cross the stream, but reaching the ford with the militia troops closing in seemed impossible. If the freebooters hadn't opened fire on the militia, it is likely that Roberts and his group would have gone unnoticed. The state troops were fully invested in attacking the farmhouse where Mr. Teague and his lads had taken refuge. It seemed for a time that the house would serve as a fort against the attacking militia, but as the volleys struck the windows and the walls, it became obvious that the construction was not as sturdy as they thought. Henry met his end in the first volley, as did Thomas. One was struck through the head as he peered out the window. The other took a round through the liver that appeared to come straight through the wall. Joseph fell next, having been hit 3 or 4 times in the torso. Robert was shot through the throat and lay gasping before his life ebbed out of him. Billy Teague now lay alone on the floor as more shot ripped through the building. He made a dash for the door. Mr. Teague took a wound to the leg as he tried to flee the house. He lay on the ground moaning about his poor leg and begging for it not to be cut from his body. Mr. Teague laid down his arms and surrendered to the militia. As for Roberts, 2/3 of his band made it back to the boats and escaped to the Raven. The other third chose to attempt an ill-conceived rescue by charging the militia near the house. They were cut down to a man. The skirmish resulted in 9 pirates being killed and 2 captured, and 6 militia killed or wounded. Colonel Long would return to San Lorenzo and toast to a successful mission with the hanging of 2 pirates. Mr. Roberts would have this to say to their crew of the Raven: "Let none fail in their duty, lest ye end your days as that of misbegotten scoundrel Billy Teague, swinging from the gallows in old Providence." For Captain Price, this day meant something else. They had hoisted the black flag, and by greed and misfortune declared war on civilization.